Are you ready to learn to live a life that is overflowing with victory and empowerment? Welcome to Conversations with Dr. Lane. Dr. Lane is a board-certified obstetrician and gynecologist. She is committed to addressing health holistically from the mind, body, and soul.
Hi, this is Dr. Antherica Lane with Conversations with Dr. Lane. Let's talk about those things that we do not have time to discuss during an appointment. Let's talk about your finances, business, education, relationships. If I can empower you to make healthy decisions in these areas, I am convinced your mind will be more focused and more open to a conversation about your health.
Turn up the volume. Get ready for Conversations with Dr. Lane.
Well, hello, this is Dr. Antherica Lane with Conversations with Dr. Lane. We have another exciting show for you today. I want you all to meet my Stevie B Media Productions family. Our first guest will be Steve Butler of Stevie B Media Productions and Kelli Fletcher of the Kelli Fletcher Show. I hope something will be said today that will encourage you. Here we go. Our first guest is Steve Butler, affectionately known as Stevie B of Stevie B Media Productions. Stevie B was born in High Point, North Carolina in 1962. He obeyed the gospel of Christ at the age of 9. His home congregation is the Olga Avenue Church of Christ in High Point, North Carolina. His wife's name is Gwendolyn Nichelle Butler. He has 4 children and 6 grandchildren. Stevie B received a Bachelor of Science degree from Troy State University in Troy, Alabama in 2000. After serving 20 years in the United States Armed Services, he retired from active duty at Fort Bragg, North Carolina in October 2001. He started preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ in 1990 at the Balboa Church of Christ in Balboa, Panama. In 1994, he attended the Forest Road Church of Christ School of Preaching in Columbus, Georgia. And in 1994 to 1995, he preached for the Southside Church of Christ in Opelika, Alabama. In 1995, he established a Church of Christ in Germany. Also during that period, he was able to preach with 2 different Churches of Christ in Germany. In 1997, he preached the Campaign for Christ in Nuremberg, Germany. In 2013, he taught and converted by God's grace a Baptist congregation in Pakistan. Also, in 2013, he established groups on social media for biblical discussion. In 2015, he established a group called Brethren in Boots to assist and encourage Christian soldiers in the armed services of the United States. The group Shout It Out is still currently active on Facebook, receiving biblical questions from all over the world. These questions are now being used on his radio show, the Gospel Light Radio Show, which he established in 2018. In 2016, he founded 5 Guys and a Bible radio show on Blog Talk Radio. He also established Stevie B Acapella Gospel Music Blast. In 2018, he established his media company, Stevie B Media Productions, where he currently has 5 productions. In 2022, Stevie B was the master of ceremonies on a national tour called the Experience Acapella Tour, where he was the presenter of the headliners, Anthony Carter of Chicago, Illinois, Anissa Cooper of Memphis, Tennessee, Rain of Orlando, Florida, and comedian Timbo of Holly Springs, Mississippi. This tour was promoted by Chef Brian Brown from Atlanta, Georgia. In 2022, Stevie B was the 2022 recipient of the National Academy of Christian Acapella Music Artists Award, Outstanding Achievement in Record or Radio for his radio show, Stevie B Acapella Gospel Music Blast. His other productions include What a Word from the Lord radio show, the Mid Tennessee Single Ministry, Conversations with Dr. Lane, with co-host myself, Dr. Antherica Lane, and the Kelli Fletcher Show with co-host Kelli Fletcher. Kelli Fletcher attends the Livingstone Church of Christ in Indianapolis, Indiana. His next production is the Gospel Light radio show, and his number 6 production is Stevie B Acapella Gospel Music Blast. There are over 700 episodes of these shows on blogtalkradio.com, and all of these on-demand episodes can be listened to on various musical platforms such as Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Apple, iTunes. It is such a pleasure to have Stevie B of Stevie B Media Productions on the show today. Welcome to Conversations with Dr. Lane. Our next guest is Kelli Fletcher. Kelli Fletcher was born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana, and has lived there her entire life. She grew up in the Church of Christ and has been a member for 45 years, starting at Kingsley Terrace and now attending a Livingstone Church of Christ. Kelli attended the Indiana Institute of Technology and received a bachelor's in business administration with a concentration in management. She also received a bachelor's in criminal justice administration, graduating cum laude and magna cum laude, respectively. While Kelli's true interest was in criminal justice, her career aspirations shifted once she started working for a local hospital in human resources. She has worked with the same company for almost 10 years and now works as a HR business partner, which she thoroughly enjoys. Kelli really likes to help and serve others, and this job gives her the opportunity to do that. Outside of work, she is a part of an outreach committee that serves individuals who are living in shelters. Kelli has also demonstrated how she enjoys helping others by creating a show that allows her guests to discuss a variety of topics important to the community. Kelli says without her guest, her show would not be possible. She also says without Brother Stevie Butler giving her the opportunity, she would not have a platform that reaches as far as it does. She is thankful that God has opened this door, and her hope is the topics discussed on the show will be helpful to all those who hear it. Hello, this is Dr. Antherica Lane with Conversations with Dr. Lane. I missed you guys. I always tell you that when I haven't seen you for a while, and it's so...
Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. We have my Stevie B Media Productions family with me today. We have Stevie B and Kelli Fletcher. How are you guys doing?
Great. Doing just fine. How are you doing?
Good, good, good. I feel so privileged and honored to have Stevie B as well as Kelli Fletcher of the Kelli Fletcher Show.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having us.
Good,
this is
good.
different.
Now, Stevie, where are you from? Like, what city, state do you live in?
I'm from High Point, North Carolina. I live in North Carolina. I'm in Fayetteville, North Carolina, Fort Bragg, or Fort Liberty now.
Okay.
So I'm about 2 hours from my hometown.
Okay. All right. And what about you, Kelli? Where are you coming from?
Born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Corn here.
I know. I spent about 8.5 years in Indiana. So, and my daughter was born there. So it's definitely a place that's very, very, very close to my heart. Very, very close to my heart. So Stevie B, wow, you have lived quite the life. Just
Yes.
listening to your bio, and I know the audience is probably blown away by everything that we shared in regards to your bio and all the experience of your life. What are you most proud of when you think about all of your accomplishments?
The point that I'm in life right now is what I'm most proud of because I didn't see it. You know, we try to plan out our journey. We just about know what milestones we want to hit during our lifetime. But I was able to retire from the military, and here I am 20 years later, removed from the military, doing something that I actually have a passion to do that I never thought I'd be able to do. I went to school. I went to North Carolina A&T for mass communication, broadcasting, and journalism. But I was never able to get into radio because of the path I went with the military. And I just, after I went into the military, I just never thought I would be able to get into radio after that. So now that I'm actually doing it and looking back on everything, this is where I always wanted to be.
Yes.
Doing what I'm doing now, 20 years removed from that career. So I'm
Wow.
loving it. I am loving it.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, Kelli, you could probably attest to this as well. Stevie B, he just loves what he's doing. I mean, you could just tell
Mm-hmm.
when he's on the show. You can just hear it in his voice, right?
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
And I do love it. I do love it. If you catch that Friday night show, I let my hair down on Friday night.
Okay. Uh-oh.
Oh, yes.
Uh-oh.
I'm laughing. I'm telling jokes. I'm just having a good time.
Wow. Well, Kelli, let's talk a little bit about how you and Stevie B connected.
So we connected in, I want to say, Brother Stevie, maybe early 2021. I was a part of the Mid-Tennessee Singles Committee.
Right.
And at that time, we had a show where we rotated. It was like kind of like a Bible study.
Yeah, singles ministry.
Right. And so I had talked to the president at that time, Shauna Otis, had talked to her about maybe how I could get involved, have a show of my own. And she connected me with Brother Stevie, and I talked to him about what I wanted to do, and the rest is history. And each year since that time, I've said, okay, I think this is going to be my last year. And now here we are in 2024.
I have to talk her off the ledge.
Yeah,
Right.
well, I think there is something contagious about Stevie's energy when it comes to broadcasting, for sure. I must say
Yes.
for myself that when I was younger, I always had the desire to have a radio show, actually. And it just didn't seem like anybody was giving me an opportunity. And then
Right.
in comes the world of podcasting and creating vlogs and all that. And I started gaining a lot of interest and experience with video work. So once I started creating my show, Conversations with Dr. Lane, it was actually my brother John who told me about Stevie B. And we worked on one of my brother's projects together. And then after that, I asked Stevie if there was possibly a place where I could share my show on his platform. And he was so gracious and allowed me to do that. So that's kind of how we connected. So,
Right.
so thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And if I can say something, it's interesting because unlike the both of you, I had no interest in talking in front of people on the phone, let alone like we're doing now on camera.
Yeah.
So Stevie B, he actually presented that option to me once. He was like, have you ever thought about going live? I was like, nope, not at all. So, and here I am. So
I know it's awesome. When you think, Kelli, about the fact that you have a show now, Why did you think it was important to start a show, and particularly talking about things such as mental health?
Um, well, it started, like I said, in August 2021. It was during COVID. And at that time, you hear on the news and you just hear in just conversations, um, people, in particular women, now being stuck at home with their abuser.
Mm,
And so that in my mind, I thought, Lord, how can I help?
mm,
Mhm.
How can I don't know how to help. How can I help? So initially the show started out catered to women. And it has evolved over the years, and now there's men and women, and we talk about all types of issues, concerns.
Right.
We've talked about things about being single and how to live in your singleness. And then we've talked about human trafficking. We've talked about domestic violence on college campuses, within the home.
mm,
So that's really how it started. And it was just one way that I could help.
mhm.
If maybe someone in the audience was listening to one of the shows and it helped them, it educated them, then that was my goal. That's it. I accomplished my goal.
Yeah, that's absolutely, absolutely wonderful. I know for me, when I created Conversations with Dr. Lane, I was really thinking about those moments that I have with patients. And I often like to connect with patients on a way that, I guess the best way to say it, it really emphasizes their humanity. And I like to know who they are as a person and or as people. And sometimes I don't have time to talk about all the things that we want to talk about. So that's what
Mhm.
I thought creating something like Conversations with Dr. Lane would be kind of an extension of what I might talk about. Because, health is more than just your physical health, as I know you all
Right.
know.
Right.
So there's a lot that goes into it and that determines why people make some of the decisions they make in regards to their health. So that's kind of how that show was birthed. For you, Stevie, you have multiple shows. So let's talk about what shows you have and what were you thinking? Like, what was your vision when you put your whole platform together?
Well, initially, I'm on social media. I have groups on social media, Facebook, Bible discussion groups. That's how all this started in the
Mm,
beginning. Like I said, I always wanted to do radio, but I saw those biblical discussion groups as a platform, a springboard, if you will, into getting into radio. So I put a filter out there on social media. I said, I'm thinking about doing radio. Give me some good feedback. What do y'all think? And then people started saying, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Do it, go for it. Okay, I made my mind up. I'm going to do radio. I need a name for the show. What shall we call the show? We want to talk about the scriptures. So what are we going to call the show? All kind of names. I was getting all kind of names, but I finally settled on a name called Five Guys in a Bible Radio Show. That's what I
mm,
settled on. So now I got the five. Now I have to find four more guys to be with me on the radio show.
mhm,
So then I found four Christians that was interested in doing radio with me as well, and that's what started everything. Five Guys in the Bible Radio Show. That show didn't last but a few months, but it was a springboard into everything else that I'm doing right now. But it caused me to create my own production company, and it caused me to really learn my craft,
mhm.
to really learn everything I needed to learn. So now I have five productions. I have 12 people, and you two are included in that 12 people that are working with me now on these shows. And so it has just exceeded my expectation in every sense of the word. What we're doing now, from the way it started, it's incredible.
Yes, let's talk a little bit about the segment or the show that we participate in, Kelly and I. What a word from the Lord. Tell me about that segment and what is it beyond just myself and Kelly? Who else do you have? What's your vision with that particular show?
Now, what a word from the Lord. When that show first started, I had guest speakers from the Brotherhood all over the churches of Christ coming to that particular show. When it first started, I was doing all the lessons myself. And I said, well, it has to be a better way to do this. Let me see if I can get more people involved in the preaching of the gospel, because that's what that show was all about, just the preaching of the gospel. So I started reaching out to fellow preachers within the brotherhood, and anybody and everybody, if you know their names, they've been through that show. And I've had so many preachers on that show, I had to cut back the production because it was just too many preachers coming through that show. So what I did, okay, then I met Shauna, and she was telling me about her singles ministry. I'm like, okay, well, this might be a good way for me to cut back on this production here and start going in another direction. As far as I had the preachers coming on the second Tuesday of the month. I have a guest speaker. Then I'm gonna tell you about that community corner segment I created as well. But a guest speaker on the second Tuesday of the month, and I have two co-hosts. Lou Gilbert, he's the evangelist for the Old Brook Park Church of Christ in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and also Isa Mullins. He served the Church of Christ here in Cary, North Carolina. Those are my two co-hosts on that particular show. And then I added the community corner segment to that show, and that show is for small business owners and entrepreneurs. But the way that show came about, you all heard of Stacey Lattisaw, the R&B singer, Stacey Lattisaw? One of her friends, his last name is Sutton. I can't think of his first name, but I met him one day in the gym, and he was telling me about a bullying program that he was doing in public schools. But at the time, I didn't have a segment on my radio show where I could bring him onto the show to talk about that program. And I'm like, well, he's doing a good work. And my shows are all about doing a good work for the Lord. So we got to get this brother on this show. But I never forgot about it. I never forgot about that conversation I had with him. And one day, a light bulb just came on. The community corner. People who are doing good works within the community should be able to come on and talk about what they're doing to serve the community. And that's how that segment got started. So every time he comes on the show, we always tell how the segment got started with him, by him telling me his story about his bullying program in public schools. And since I've started that segment, I've had professional boxers on that segment, NFL players, people in college consultants, finance consultants, publishers, anybody and everybody, community activists. I've had a candidate for the president of the United States, Dr. What's her name? But she's out of Covington, Georgia. She's running for as an independent for president in 2024. So I interviewed her on that segment. And also one of my congressmen here in North Carolina, on election night, she was in my community corner segment waiting for the results of her election. But she was talking to me while she was waiting for those results. And she wound up winning her race. So all kind of people have been on that community corner segment. And I'm just proud of that segment. And then with Kelli and you, Dr. Lane, you all are taking up the third and the fourth Tuesday of the month. So I was able to just narrow that second Tuesday of the month. And see, I'm off the first Tuesday of the month. I took that Tuesday off. I don't do any shows the first week of the month. That's when I get a break. So I just got the preachers, because I had so many preachers. It was like I was running a daycare center. I'm serious. It was like I was running a daycare center with preachers. I had so many preachers. So I had to cut that production back. And by me doing that, that's how I was able to have your show and Kelly's show on the the third and fourth Tuesday of the month. Just a lot going on. And I haven't even told you about the Thursday night show and the Friday night show yet,
I know we gotta have two shows for you, Stevie, just to talk about everything that you've done. But Kelli, let's just talk about what it means to have a platform like this, particularly as a woman in the Church of Christ, and having a space where someone is allowing us to share our gifts and our talents. How does that feel to you to have that opportunity?
It's really a blessing to me. Again, like I said earlier, I never envisioned myself being on a show or having a show, but the opportunity, just having that platform, I've met so many people that are members of the church that are experts, that are, social workers, and they're psychologists, and they're experts when it comes to, say, like mental health
Mhm.
and domestic violence and things like that. Um, and then not only that, where I've had survivors and people who are really dealing with mental health issues,
Mhm.
and just how they are surviving through that. So it's really given me an opportunity to just meet a range of people,
Mhm.
and just having this platform is kind of giving me the courage to reach out to even others. I
Yeah.
might see them on the
Mhm.
news, and it's
Mhm.
like, hey, I got this platform, I got this show, saw you on the news. Would you be interested? I give
Mm.
them a little background about the show. As a matter of fact, the gentleman that is coming up on my next show, I saw him on the news
Mm.
Mhm.
and found him on Facebook, sent him a message, and saw somebody else on the news. So that's how I'm picking up. So I'm just thankful that I have this opportunity, and that Stevie B has given me, the flexibility
Yes.
uh, to have different topics.
Mhm.
So, so
See, I
Yeah.
saw.
I'm really really
See
So,
what for what Kelly is doing. I
mhm.
saw her as someone different, something that
Mhm.
the church has not experienced yet.
Mm.
We don't talk about mental health issues in the
Right.
church, and the domestic issues that she's dealing with. You do not hear topics like this in the church.
Right.
yeah
You don't hear it. So I have to use the platform for getting this type of information out because it
yeah
was needful and it was different,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know, and there was no space. You didn't see a space for that.
Right.
So someone had to create it,
yeah
Yes.
you know.
Yeah. So I'm just sitting here thinking, Kelly, listening to you talk, that you had no idea that you would have a show. And here you are now reaching out to people, calling people, getting guests. Look at God. Look at God in
Yeah.
your life and
Amen.
how he
Amen.
is using you.
Amen.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen.
Amen.
My mom encourages me because she hears me too. I don't think I'm gonna keep going, and she's like, no, I think I think you do really well at it, and I've been told I'm a natural, and I'm like, really?
You
Mhm.
So
are. You
it's
really
God,
are.
it's the Lord, and
Yeah.
I'm thankful for it. Yeah,
Yeah. I can't
Yeah.
yes.
believe you want to actually quit on me. I couldn't believe that.
I look. Obviously, I can't quit you.
You can't quit
Right.
me now.
I
Can't quit
You
you.
know.
can't quit me.
I tell you what, Stevie is good for sending that text message and, hey, do you
Amen.
have a show? It's hard to say no.
Right, right.
It's hard to say no.
I
So
I got a funny story, Dr. Lane.
sure.
Now this is on the Friday night show. I have when I first envisioned that particular show, I'm as a military man, I'm a long range planner.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be. So what I did for that show, I decided I'm not going to play anybody's music on my radio show that I'm not actually talking to,
Oh,
that I
okay.
don't actually have a personal relationship with.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
when I play their music and I make the statement, "Oh, I just love this song,"
Mm-hmm.
then I'm telling the truth because I'm not going to be on the air lying. I love,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So what I did once I started reaching out to these artists and start scheduling these shows, it got to the point where it was scheduled 5 years out.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
That might sound ridiculous at now, but at the
Mm-hmm.
time, that was just the flow of things,
Wow.
you know. So
Mhm.
when I'm contacting these artists and giving them their date for the show, they laughing at me.
Mm-hmm.
5 years. What, you don't know what's going to happen in 5 years. I said, well, by the grace of God, we'll be able to do these shows. Because I would always say that.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Now we're looking back, Dr.
Yeah.
Lane.
Yeah.
But all that work is behind me now.
Yes.
Mhm.
All
Mhm.
that body of work is behind me.
Yeah.
And some of the artists that came on the show that was laughing at me, they
Mm-hmm.
even brought that conversation back up. Yeah, I remember when we was talking about it 5 years ago, and here we are. Yeah, here we are. You
Yeah.
know, but that's what vision is all about. That's what having vision is all about.
Yes.
You putting it in God's hand, and you're trusting God for that vision.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
And I just made a determination. If I'm not talking to you, I'm not playing your music.
Yeah.
So
That's.
if I have you scheduled for the show,
Mm-hmm.
I always have something to say about you when I play your music. Well, such and such is coming in 2024, or whatever the date was. He's coming. They're coming. By the grace of God, they'll be here. And
Yeah.
now I'm saying, well, they've been here. Episode 325. They was on the show. You can go back and listen to the episode. You
Right.
know, but that was all in my mind when I was formulating these shows.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah, let's talk about music really quick. You received a CAMA award, and I want you to
yes, ma'am.
talk about that, what that meant to you. And you have really been very instrumental of really putting out gospel a cappella music, and particularly from artists from the Church of Christ as well. So speak to that for us.
I am just so proud of this award. I was thrilled just to be nominated in 2018 because I never thought radio personalities would get awards, first of
Mhm.
all. You know, so just to be recognized at the Academy is just, I'm just thrilled to have this award. And that just lets me know that you just never know who's listening.
Correct.
You never know who's listening. And the quality of what we're putting out is just, your brother, John Eberson, the group Exodus 2.0, he's been on my show numerous of times, and they release
Yes.
new music all the time on my shows. And the production quality, we don't take a back seat to anybody when
Mhm.
it comes to music.
Right.
And a lot of people just never heard of acapella gospel music. So I'm just proud. I like bragging on these artists because I know what I'm putting out is good quality work.
Yes.
And last year I was on a national tour for acapella gospel music. A promoter from Atlanta, I don't know if you heard of him, Chef Brian Brown. He should sing with the acapella group Just Us. You ever heard of
Mhm.
Just Us?
I haven't, but I'm gonna look them up when we're done.
Yeah, he promoted a tour last year, and he called me and asked me. He said the artists that are on the tour requested that I MC the tour because these are the same artists that comes on my shows on Friday night.
Mm.
So
Nice.
so I accepted, and we had a great time, great
That's
time. So I
that's
never thought I'd be doing that.
right.
I never thought I'd be out of the studio
Right.
on stage someplace doing this. So I
Right.
never thought I'd be doing that. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk a little bit. I always on my show, I like to really speak to those who have a vision, or maybe they have an idea but they just don't have the full vision or the know-how to get to really implement a whole idea that they have. So I like to spend some time with you all just talking about what tips do you have for someone who is, number one, thinking about a radio show, podcast, vlog. What is the process that you go through to create a show? Just give some tips so that they can start thinking about, oh, okay, this is how you do it. Because I really think anybody can do it. So sometimes they just need to know where to begin. So we'll start with you, Kelli.
Um, the first thing, and just think myself, first, don't be afraid. Um, and have the to just go ahead and start something. Start doing your research. If you have a connection, unlike you all, I didn't have a vlog or anything like that. So I just had a connection, and I had the idea. It's like, okay, let me reach out to Shauna, who connected me with Brother Stevie. And I know you asked the question, like, what are my future thoughts? In the future, possibly the very near future, I've already done my first pre-recording. And so hopefully I get into being on camera.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm not sure what that's going to look like or how how it's going to look. I have an idea. I may have to reach out to you to get some
Sure.
tips.
Sure.
But that's my thought. That's my thought.
Great, great. What about you, Stevie? What tips can you share? How can someone get started?
Now, when podcasting first started in 2016, I came in on the ground floor,
Mm,
2016. But what I didn't know was the actual work that's involved in putting these shows together. I
yes.
had no idea because when I first started, I was just a person talking on the microphone because I had an executive producer that was doing everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so once my shows got taken away from me, when I had to learn everything, now that I've learned everything, the work that's involved in this, you really have to have the time to put to this work
Right.
because it takes a lot of time. On Friday night, it takes me 2 hours to put that show together.
Mm-hmm.
Each show, 2 hours. So every show you hear on Friday night, and when you listen to these shows, you just don't know what's involved in putting them together.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like you're cutting and pasting every audio clip because all the time has to be accounted for.
Mm-hmm.
No dead air. You don't
Right.
have any dead. But I didn't know about that part of the work that was involved in putting shows together like that. Now that I'm dealing with it every Friday night, this is what I do. And it takes me, I go on the air at 9, but I have to start at 6 to put the shows together.
Right.
Wow.
2
Right.
hours.
Wow.
So by the
Right.
time I'm done putting the show together, I'm tired. I'm ready to go to sleep. You know,
Right.
but I got another 2 hours I got to do on the air, you know, but it's a lot of work. So you really have to set that time aside to do the work.
Right.
And you have to be patient. You have to be patient.
Yes, yes. For those of you who are just joining the show, this is Dr. Antherica Lane with Conversations with Dr. Lane, and we are having an exciting conversation with Stevie B of Stevie B Media Productions and Kelli Fletcher with the Kelli Fletcher Show. It's just so wonderful to have them on the show tonight. So I think what you're saying, Stevie and Kelli, making those connections is very important. Start thinking about the topics, and then who in your, what I do is think about a topic and who in my network of friends, family, and friends of friends that might be able to speak to a particular topic. And the whole concept of planning out a show, which is what Stevie B is talking about, is extremely critical. You have to get in this habit of knowing exactly, okay, what is the next step of every show? What's your run of show, quote unquote, going to be, so that you know, okay, first you're going to do your intro, then you're going to do a bio, then you're going to bring your guest on, and then you're going to cut to a clip, and then you're going to come back. And I mean, you have to have every single aspect of the show really thought through. And
Yeah.
once you do that, then I think your show will run a lot more smoothly. And when it comes to video, and I think Stevie B, you could probably speak to this too with audio, your equipment is very, very important in terms of having the right equipment, whether it's the camera, the mic source, the audio, any kind of mixers, but then also the internet connection as well.
Right.
You need to invest a little bit into your
Right.
internet connection and your even your computer speed, for example. Do you all have any thoughts in regards to that, particularly Stevie B, in regards to investments that have to be made in order to make sure that you have a quality show?
Save your money. Save your money and buy the necessary equipment you're going to need. My first thought was my visual has to be on point because when people saw my videos or when they see my studio, I wanted everything to be professional, to look like this brother actually knows what he's doing.
Right.
Even if within my heart of hearts, I knew I didn't know what I was doing, but at least I looked like I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I sounded like I knew what I was doing.
Mhm, mhm.
So I had to make some investments. I had to buy my mixer. I had to buy my interface, my microphones. You look at ESPN, those sports shows on ESPN,
Right.
those microphones they have on ESPN. I bought one of those microphones.
Right.
when I first started, but I bought something else since then, but they didn't sound as good as I thought they was going to sound. This microphone I have now sounds a whole lot better than that mic on ESPN. I ain't trying to throw them on the bus, but I wasted my money on that mic. But you have to invest in your equipment.
You do.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, and in my residence, my studio is in my home. I had to get a separate Wi-Fi from my residence. You know,
Wow.
we got two modems, one for the residence and one for my studio. I had to invest in that. I had to pay that bill. That was an extra bill for me.
Right.
But I had to pay that bill, you know.
Yeah.
But it's all a part of an investment. You got to be willing to make it. For
sure. Kelli, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I was going to say I definitely agree. Since as you can see with my camera, I'm sitting home, but it's getting dark outside. And so, the darker the sun is going down, and now my lighting, you can, barely see me now. So that's definitely important. My minister actually helped me get a mixer for the audio part. So I got my microphones, I got my mixers, I got my headsets and all that good stuff. So I think I'm pretty okay there, but it's this video. I got to work on that.
Now
so I appreciate the tips.
You need a lamp now.
Yeah,
I need a lamp.
Yeah. Oh, much better. Much better.
Wow, Kelli. Let there be light.
Much better.
That's great. Once again, this is Dr. Antherica Lane with Conversations with Dr. Lane. We like to have conversations that inspire you. This is really the place where health and life intersect. I encourage you to subscribe to the show, like the show, share it with your friends and family. And you can catch us not only on YouTube, Lane Media and Photography, Lane Women's Health on Demand, but you can also catch this show on Facebook, Lane Women's Health on Demand. And then Stevie B, I'm going to let you share where the audience can hear our show on your show as well as your other shows.
Wherever you are getting your podcast from, it doesn't even matter anymore. If they have podcasts and you type in Stevie B's Media Production, you should be able to see these shows. We're everywhere now. And we just got picked up by Pandora about 2 weeks ago. And I've been trying to get on Pandora for 5 years.
Wow.
And Pandora boasts the largest listening audience in the world, 558 million listeners.
Wow.
And that's a gateway to XM radio. That's the next step to XM radio.
Yes.
So we're everywhere. And I got a message from one of my distributors. They told me the top 4 countries that these shows are being broadcast. The United States is number 1, of course. But then number 2 is Brazil. Number 3 is Spain. And number 4 is Russia.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Russia, of all places.
Yeah.
Russia. So you just never know where these shows are being picked up at. You know, we're everywhere. It's on a global scale. Right. And I'm just so thrilled for that aspect of it because of what we're trying to do. We're trying to minister to the souls of men. That's what it's all about. And we haven't even talked about my Thursday night show yet, but we'll get to that too.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because my show is also available on podcast, Conversations with Dr. Lane, on your favorite podcasting platform that you like to use. And it is interesting when it goes global. I think probably the country that's been most far away is Germany. And I thought, wow, why is someone in Germany listening to Antherica Lane, a little black girl from Chickasha, Oklahoma? You know, like why is that? You know, but it's interesting that people just find this information that we're providing very helpful, informative, and it's a blessing to be able to share it as well. So absolutely wonderful. We could have 2 shows, 3 shows together. I'm going to bring you all back. Stevie, we need to talk more about you. Kelli, we need to talk about you and your guest And I have so many more questions for the both of you. So we'll have to have a part 2 and
Okay,
a part
sounds good.
3. Yes, for
Sounds good.
sure. How would you like to what's a way that you'd like to end our show today? Do you have any last minute words of encouragement for that person who's just sitting on the couch thinking, I sure wish I had a podcast. I sure wish I had a show. What's your last word of encouragement that you could give them?
Go ahead, Kelly.
Oh, I think I mentioned it earlier. Just having the courage,
Yes.
especially when you're not familiar or used to being in front of a camera on a phone. If it's something that you have in your mind to do, you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it. So just having the courage to move forward.
Yeah.
There was a young lady called into my show this past Friday night, and she asked me, could she host one of my Friday night shows?
Oh, wow.
And I put her on my schedule to host. And the date that I gave her, she's going to have 2 heavy hitter special guests on that show. George G from Straight Company and Anthony Carter from Chicago is going to be on that
Yes.
show. And she's going to host that show. Her name is Renee Baker from Sherman, Texas.
Okay.
And she's
Okay.
been following the show, and she says she wants to host the show. So I gave her the opportunity. And that's why I said you just got to be willing to give people opportunities, because you just
Right.
never
Yes.
know. You just never know
Yes.
you just never know where these opportunities will lead. I didn't
Yes.
see any of this, Dr. Lane. Any of what we're doing right now, I
Right.
didn't see none of this.
No.
None
Right.
of this. None of it. But the
Yeah.
fact that we're here now, God has been good. He's been blessing it.
Amen.
That's how
He
you know. That's how you know God got His hand in it. When things
Yes.
start happening that you yourself cannot believe, that's God.
Right.
Yes.
See,
That's right.
Yes. Yes. So true. So true. And there's enough success that for everybody. No one has
right?
to feel like, you have to hoard the success. There's enough
Right.
creativity for everybody. So I think it's absolutely beautiful how Stevie, you have shared your platform. You really have created a powerful vehicle for change and opportunity. And I just want to let you know that I am appreciative of that. I'm so thankful, and I just know that you'll be blessed in the future for that.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Well, it's been wonderful. It's been great talking to you both. And you all have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And this has been Dr. Lane with Conversations with Dr. Lane. And we just had a conversation with Stevie B of Stevie B Media Productions and Kelli Fletcher of the Kelli Fletcher Show. We'll
Thank you
talk
for
to you all
having me.
later, okay?
Thank
Yes,
you.
All
thank
righty.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye
All
bye.
right. Our subject is Grace Be With You. The weeping prophet pleaded, restore us to yourself, O Lord, that we may be restored. In Lamentations chapter 5 and verse 21. In a sense, the entire message of Genesis through Revelations can be summed up in the conception of restoration. Jehovah reconciling man to himself. We see God's plea with us in the inspired pen of Paul when he wrote his second letter to the Corinthians. Therefore, we are ambassadors for Christ, God making his appeal through us. We implore you on behalf of Christ, be reconciled to God. 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 20. His love for us is also great, his compassion so deep, his kindness so beyond comparison, that he was willing to give his only begotten Son for our redemption. John chapter 3 and verse 16. 1 John chapter 3 and verse 16. Our Father is the source of every good and perfect gift. James chapter 1 and verse 17. His love for man is so far reaching that he sends blessings every day upon those of us who reject him. For God causes it to rain on the just as well as the unjust. He causes the sun to shine on the evil and the good. Matthew chapter 5 in verse 45. The plate of food for which the atheist refuses to give thanks. To God, he refuses to acknowledge. Each breath of air taken by Muslims who adhere to corrupt views of their Creator, all comes willingly and freely from a God who loves them in spite of themselves, a God who freely offers us all the gifts of salvation and eternal life, which none of us deserves. Romans chapter 6 and verse 23, Titus chapter 2 and verse 11. Yet it takes two for complete reconciliation to occur. God's hand has always been outstretched from the Garden of Eden until this day, and will continue to be held out for us until the day of judgment. Are we willing to take his hand and allow him to pull us back to his side? We are given the choice as to whom we will serve, Joshua 24 and verse 15. The Almighty is pleading for us to make the right choice. The Apostle Paul wrote, working together with him, then we appeal to you not to receive the grace of God in vain. 2 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 1. God loves us with all his being and only asks that we do the same by submitting our lives to his will. Matthew chapter 22 and verse 37, John 14 and verse 15. How Satan tries to deceive us into thinking that we can offer God less than our all and still be restored to him. And how sad it is that he succeeds most times than not. From the beginning, God's followers have often wrestled with the sin of giving him lukewarm, mediocre service. Revelations 3 verse 14 through 22. We love the idea of God saving us from our sins by his grace. And yet we also love to follow our own desires instead of his. This leads us to believe Satan's lies that we are still reconciled to God, even if we unrepentantly and rebelliously usurp his authority and turn away from his commandments. Romans chapter 6, verse 1 and 2. Friends, our Heavenly Father has done and continue to do more than enough to bring us back to him. His hand is outstretched. We must take hold of it by giving him what he rightfully deserves: our lives, our service, our obedience. Amen.
Wow, this has just been another exciting conversation with Dr. Lane. Thank you so much, Stevie B and Kelli Fletcher, for contributing to the show today. And Stevie B, what a wonderful word during our soul food segment. I know you're going to bless someone when they listen to your message from today. Well, once again, this has been another wonderful show on Conversations with Dr. Lane. I encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channels, Lane Women's Health on Demand, Lane Media and Photography. You can also like my Facebook page, Lane Women's Health on Demand. And if you need to catch me on your favorite podcast platform, you can do that as well. You can listen to me in the car while you're driving. Once again, have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for coming to Conversations with Dr. Lane, where health and life intersect.